Michael Jordan was known for screaming at his teammates, and he even punched one once. At Noma, often called the world's best restaurant, former employees described a culture of violence, yelling, volatility, and a fear of mistakes. We celebrate Michael Jordan and what he achieved with the Chicago Bulls, but Noma has received intense criticism for their working practices. Is this a case of double standards? Why is one environment celebrated as elite competitiveness while the other is condemned as toxic? Noma's a 3 Michelin star restaurant run by chef René Redzepi and co-founded by Klaus Meyer in Copenhagen, Denmark. Noma, led by René Redzepi in Copenhagen, helped define modern Nordic cuisine. In 2010, 2011, 2012, 2014, and 2020-21, it was ranked as the best restaurant in the world by Restaurant Magazine. This is a restaurant and a chef who are credited with popularizing the concept of Nordic cuisine, sourcing local products, foraging, using fermentation, and experimenting wildly to identify new flavors, new experiences, and new ways of working with and presenting ingredients. A dinner at Noma would easily set you back several $1,000s per person, and seats are sold out months in advance. What isn't sold out months in advance is viewings of this channel. If you're new here and you're enjoying the content, then click the subscribe button and help my channel grow. Thank you so much. In 2024, Noma reported an operating profit of 1.7 million Danish crowns, which is approximately $270,000 US. Out of an overall revenue of $7.5 million, that marks a 3% profit once all bills are paid. Like most restaurants, profits are volatile. Margins are thin. Costs, especially labor costs, are high. COVID was, of course, a big contributor to some tough years, but as with the restaurant industry in general, this is not a story of a massively profitable business. Competition is cutthroat, and the key drivers of costs in the industry are ingredients, and more importantly, more than anything else, it's employee costs. Restaurant staff costs are generally high, but in the high-end space, this skyrockets. The number of staff needed to prep, to cook, to service high-end customers is honestly staggering. In a low-end restaurant, you might see one server per 5 to 10 tables. At a Michelin restaurant, this number easily drops to one server for just 1 or 2 tables. These ratios also apply to kitchen and cleaning staff as well. And with all that in mind, even when they were charging $700 per seating per lunch, René Redzepi himself has called the model unsustainable. Over the years, more and more criticism has been leveled at René Redzepi and Noma. The 4 criticisms that were most common were the reliance on unpaid stagiaries working 60 to 70 hours a week on repetitive tasks like cleaning herbs and with tweezers for hours. It was also a working environment where working hours easily exceeded 60 hours and upwards of 80 hours per week in a physically incredibly demanding environment with huge pressure and limited space for failure. Incidentally, also something that was likely in breach of Danish work environment laws. There was also a culture of yelling, public criticism, and a fear of mistakes. Finally, also physical harassment. So why do we celebrate Michael Jordan and other elite athletes for the results they create despite their possible leadership and collegiate flaws? In a word, anything goes when it's an elite competition. Whether you're the world's best basketball player, the world's best cyclist, or the world's best chess player, the world accepts that in the pursuit for perfection, sacrifices are expected. And that means the means justify the end goal. For an elite sports person, everything gets sacrificed. Time, relationships, balance, it's necessary and it's vital to succeed. Can't the same apply to Noma, the world's best restaurant, and René Redzepi, the embodiment of the absolute pinnacle of achievement within gastronomy? Many would argue that they can. To achieve that level of quality and of experience, sacrifices have to be made. The stagiaries that I spoke about have accepted the trade. Brutal work in exchange for career acceleration and a stellar resume. They knew it would be tough. This practice is, after all, not isolated to Noma. Michelin restaurants across the world make use of these practices. These staff chose to be there, to learn and to grow in pursuit of their own ambitions. Long hours? That's expected at the top. The restaurant business is notoriously demanding, and if any place is going to be the most demanding of all, it would surely be the world's best restaurant. Even the intensity, some people would argue, is the price for winning. Michael Jordan would probably argue that when winning the ultimate prize is what is at stake, emotions are going to run high, and that's the price you pay for success. The weak shouldn't apply because it is very much survival of the fittest. So in a way, you can see how running a world-class Michelin restaurant is just as much an elite enterprise as it is running an elite cycling team aiming to win the Tour de France. But here's the difference. The problem is Noma might be elite, but it's also a place of work. At McKinsey, employees are regularly required to work 60 or 80 hours per week. Having McKinsey on your resume is a massive boost for your future career options. But the difference is, a starting salary at McKinsey for an undergrad is in excess of $100,000 a year. Within a few years, most McKinsey employees are easily making more than $200,000 a year. A stagiaire will work for months on end with no pay and will receive only modest support for accommodation and not much else. In sport, the elite athlete benefits. In consulting, you're paid. At Noma, the balance is tilted heavily towards the employer. There are industries like the restaurant business where long working hours are the norm. The reality of having to prep before opening, staying while the customers are there, and staying afterwards to clean up and prepare for the next day necessitates an intense schedule. But for a lot of other industries, and also within restaurants, this is where shift work comes into play. Employees rotate in and out to cover the needs of the business without excessively overloading the individual. And in contrast to elite sports people, you're again presented with three realities. One, that the individual is typically compensated for their efforts. Two, that for extreme performance, some level of recuperation time is systematically built in. Overwork, overtraining does not benefit the individual, and there's a delicate balance between the individual's choice to put in a lot of effort and who receives the benefit. For the athlete, the benefit is largely on their side. At Noma, that balance often didn't exist. And then there's the culture. The yelling, the documented violence, the potential public humiliation, the fear of reprisal, allegations of harassment. Within sports and elite competition, this is no longer accepted either. Whether it's football or soccer or rugby or any other sport, the time of the caustic, temperamental coach is long gone. Modern coaching techniques have replaced these old ways. Trainers like Pep Guardiola are known for their exceptional talent management, individual coaching skills, and soft-spoken ways. They're not soft though, they're not delicate, but research has shown time and time again that screaming at your team as the norm doesn't deliver consistent results in the way modern coaching does. When swimmers for the England national team spoke out about fat-shaming sessions where individual swimmers were berated for being overweight in front of teammates, it hit the front pages immediately. Across the board, whether it's elite sports or in business, the toxic, berating, domineering leader is not one that is celebrated. On the contrary, they are and should be called out. Even if Noma sees itself as elite, its practices were outdated, flawed, and outright wrong. The reality is simple. Even René Redzepi called his own model unsustainable. Throughout Noma's years, they have cycled back and forth between profit and loss, despite the fact that upwards of half of their staff were unpaid. They attempted to build a business through what most would see as exploitation, not paying salaries, not respecting laws regarding working hours, and not treating people with the respect they deserve. The fact is that when you become a beacon of performance within whatever field you're in, there are other people that will flock to you. This is a blessing that you have something that someone wants to be a part of. The problem is when that becomes an excuse to break the rules, to cheat on the scales for your own benefit, and becomes a justification for bad behavior. If you can't make money by playing by the rules, the answer isn't to break the rules. The answer is you're unsustainable. Those were my thoughts. Those of you that work in the restaurant industry, share your thoughts, also the rest of you as well. Remember to subscribe and see you soon.